Stephen. I am at St. Mark's in Fort Dodge. I would like to welcome Joe Stevens, who is co-director, co-founder of JOPPA, uh, who helps take care of and assist homeless folks in Des Moines. And I don't know if you go outside Des Moines, if possible, but I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you, Joe. And thank you once again for teaching us about this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm excited to be here and appreciate you having me. Remind me about how long you typically give to a presenter.
Um, you mean how long you need to present?
Yes, I'm just kind of wondering what the context is, the framework, and how much time we have together.
We're scheduled for an hour, but I think more often than not, we go about 45 minutes. Does that sound about right, Trace? Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, that gives me an idea. I may want to show a video or two. Yeah, so I am glad to be here. I appreciate the opportunity. And if it's okay with you guys, we can be pretty informal. But I'll
Absolutely.
start by giving you kind of a high level presentation
Hmm.
and then certainly open it up. And the last part, we'll just do Q&A. But if you have any questions along the way, feel free to just stop me and ask me along the way too.
Okay,
So
thank you.
yeah, so tell me, first of all, where are you guys all from and what do you do or what draws you to this particular event?
Okay. Well, I'm from Fort Dodge. I'm the rector at St. Mark's here in Fort Dodge. I was a psychiatric nurse for 43 years, and and then was in seminary, and I retired from nursing in about 2017 or so. So, so, being in mental health, of course, that's been in my wheelhouse for many, many years. So just keep, I was founder of Behavioral Health Ministries team with Amy Mealy at Mellis.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. And how about Tracy or Katie?
Sure. I'm Tracy. I work on diocesan staff with Amy. And yeah, I just usually try and attend these because I'm interested in the behavioral health things that are happening around the area. Yeah, advocate for mental health initiatives. And yeah, I'm in Des Moines primarily.
Okay. But you work with Chris and Amy. Is Amy also in Fort Dodge?
No,
She's in
she's
Ames,
Oh,
mhm.
got,
but
got confused.
works for the diocese in Des Moines.
Got you. Okay, wonderful. And Katie?
Hi, Joe. I'm Katie Lee, and I live in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And I'm a retired social worker, school social worker for 25 years. And then before that, I was in more of a clinical setting. And in retirement, one of the things that I've been focusing on is mental health and well-being. I was focusing on that before retirement as well. But and we have at our church, Christ Episcopal Church in Cedar Rapids, we call it caring conversations about mental health. And so we really, as a team, want to increase our congregation's knowledge about mental health and wellness and do some networking and that sort of thing. I'm also on the Lynn County Services Board and also the Mental Health Access Centers Board.
Mhm.
And that's another interest of mine as far as, the links between mental health and well-being and homelessness and people who are unhoused. I like that terminology better.
Sure, sure. Well, okay, that gives me a broader understanding. So and I can primarily speak more to Polk County, and the what we tend to call Central Iowa,
Hmm.
around these parts, but Greater Des Moines, and certainly to homelessness, which, as you guys know, is wrapped up in
Yeah,
housing stability, mental health, and
yeah.
all the support systems and things that or lack thereof that go with that. If you can excuse me just one second, I'm going to grab a bottle of water. Thank you very much. Well, if I'll just kind of take it from the top, and I guess I was going to ask you guys how many of you are familiar with JOPPA, but I'll just take it from the top. JOPPA helps homeless people survive, find housing, and rebuild their lives. Our mission is to create communities of unconditional love, support, and hope for the homeless as we work together to end homelessness. And
Mhm.
so, how we do that is we engage the community's time, talents, and resources to help people access existing resources and know where to go, how to navigate those systems, and support them by filling. And then we fill gaps in services, primarily in homeless services and also in education and advocacy. Um, we believe that there are a lot of people like you. I don't, some of you are still working, some of you may be retired or thinking about retirement. There are a lot of people, retired professionals out there that are helping at JOPPA.
Mm.
We've got our entire resource center is pretty much run by highly trained retired professionals that have been there for a while. And so it's people like you that are doing a lot of the work, and then we're connecting people to those other resources. Where there are gaps in funding, there are often gaps in services. And so rather than what we do is help people access existing resources. I mentioned many of those are funded, or all of those are funded by someone, and many of them are funded by HUD and or other government
Right.
agencies. And so
Right.
what we do is where there is no funding, there's generally not a program. And so we use private dollars, private resources to help fill those gaps while we're helping people access those things. So I feel like I should probably bring up some pictures for you guys. I can pull up some, you guys want me to kind of walk through a presentation? I could share my screen and do that. And it says I need to send a request to share my screen.
You should be able to now.
Perfect. See this in for a second until I say it. Okay. Can you guys see that okay? Sharing screen, go. Does it say that I'm sharing my screen on there? Can you see that little thing, or is that not on your screen?
It's
That's all
on
right.
the
There we go.
picture with for over 900 consecutive weeks.
There we go. Okay. Yeah, so we started in September 3rd of 2008, and started going out to where people live under bridges and tents and in vehicles, and we haven't missed a week since then. A lot of people started getting involved, and so for over 900 consecutive weeks through storms, etc., we're out every single week meeting people right where they live, meeting immediate needs, developing relationships, and helping to lift people off our streets. We're using tablets in the field, and we have a custom developed app that allows us to track, and it's HUD compatible, so it's HMIS compatible, and so it's able to help us run our business real time, so to speak, in the field as well as wherever we encounter someone. And that all feeds into a live dashboard. I have to figure out how this works. There we go. Okay. This is not in sync. So there we go. Okay, so in 2025, we did serve 2,425 people, which is nearly a 300% increase in the number of people accessing our services over the last 5 years. Um, last year we were fortunate to be able to help lift 117 people off our streets in Greater Des Moines. And this year we've already helped over 60, puts us up over 100 or 850 since we started 18 years ago. And we have a very robust aftercare and Circle of Friends program. So when someone receives their keys, gets into housing, the relationship doesn't end. It continues through an aftercare program, which supplements the SNAP program with food, and with the things that you can't buy with the SNAP program, such as
Yeah.
um, cleaning products for your new home, such as personal hygiene items, paper products like toilet paper, dish soap, laundry soap, all of those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
We help people work towards self-sufficiency over generally over about a 2-year period with a safety net for people that are have some debilitating issues where they really are going to need to be, in a supportive community relationship
Yes.
for the
Yes.
rest of their lives. And so, but otherwise, we graduate people after we help them achieve self-sufficiency, and we have a Circle of Friends program that kind of uh, tends to continue on from there as people have had an opportunity to build relationships with them, and those relationships don't end. So even after they're formally graduated, there's some sort of informal social time and continuing on of people that have kind of become their new family or their new part of their new support system, part of their community, as we would call it. Oh, you know what? I didn't. Oh, yeah, I guess that's the next slide. Oh my gosh. We skipped over this slide, or I skipped over two really important points. So in Iowa, and this is an Iowa statistic, so it holds true on average where you guys are as well. 34% of homeless Iowans are families with children. And
Yeah.
that number often shocks people. And an even sometimes more shocking number is the fastest growing segment across the entire nation are seniors. I think grandma and grandpa, and in Polk County, that number literally doubled in the last in a 12-month period between the last two counts. See what I want to tell you here. Okay, so oh my gosh, this thing is out of control. I think I better stop it and start over. It is not following along. Okay, I want to tell you a little bit about our village. So you know what I didn't say either. I'm sorry. I really shouldn't try to follow slides. I'm much better without them. In 2021, we opened the Homeless Resource Center and in on Euclid in Des Moines. And so we've got about 20,000 cars or so that go by. And we have over 8,000 visitors a year now that come to us. So we go out to where they are weekly, and now we have a welcoming place for people to come to us to access resources. And so there we connect people with resources. Last year we made over close to 12,000 referrals to a number of organizations here in the greater Des Moines area, including many that deal with behavioral health and mental health and et cetera, such as Irely Ball. And we work closely with the Veterans Administration, with Central Iowa Shelter, with primary health care, and with really anybody and everybody, Iowa Homeless Youth for people under 25. We work really with anybody and everybody that has any kind of a program that helps people that are experiencing homelessness. One of the
Joe, I have a question.
Yes.
So, in working in the schools, there's a specific definition of what it means, like when you would consider a child to be homeless. What is your definition for homelessness?
Well, homeless is anyone really without. We tend to follow government definitions, and homeless is really a broad term, of course, that can mean many things, but it generally means you don't have your own home. So if you're over 18, that means you don't have your own, rental certificate or mortgage, or you're not you're not somehow sharing the cost of the home. So therefore, it's not yours. Your name's not on the lease essentially or the rental agreement. Or if you're under 18, your family doesn't have essentially that. You don't have a stable, you don't have a stable housing environment. So you could be couch surfing. You could be staying in a shelter for a bit of time.
Sure.
You could be living in your car. And so there's just a really, now what we focus on at JOPPA are the unsheltered homeless, and that's a very
Okay.
much subset of homelessness. And so those are people that are living in places not meant for human habitation. And interesting, that's where I was going because we'll help, and that's the 2,425 unique individuals that we helped last year. that's an unduplicated number of human beings experiencing homelessness in the greater Des Moines area that accessed our services. So that's not even everybody, but that's the people that we serve. And out of that number, roughly 300 of them are what the government refers to as chronically homeless. And so that's a HUD definition, and that has two very specific things. One is that there's one or more diagnosed disabilities, so physical, mental health, or addiction, or a combination thereof. And they've been on the streets essentially for a very long time. In all cases, it's more than 12 months. And most of the people that are chronically homeless, I mean, many, I should say, have been on the streets for years. And so those folks are the hardest to reach and really the the hardest to help successfully transition from that state. They've often lost hope. We've often lost hope for them. Many times, in modern day society, we treat them as lepers, modern day lepers that we really don't want to see, smell, touch, and we just want to shift them off to the outskirts of town, which is, doesn't help solve the problem. And so for the chronically homeless, JOPPA is developing a village, what we started off calling kind of a tiny home village, with homes that are affordable for the chronically homeless, that have the supports necessary, and even more important than the housing and those wraparound supports or supportive programs and services is community, and having people live in the village that have never been homeless, that are called to live amongst the formerly homeless, to be in support, along with just the aspects of community are so deep and wide that they're hard to communicate to anybody who's not seen it. But we're replicating a very successful village model that has an 80+ success rate of helping chronically homeless people to come to housing they can afford and stay until they die. And it's because of the community aspects, which we'll talk more about, that make that possible. But this village, we're starting off here in Des Moines with 25 homes. It's this first neighborhood here. This is an older drawing that has a few more homes on it, but there are 25 homes in this neighborhood. Oops, my gosh. Including two homes that are again, for people that are either on staff, or they're volunteering to come live in the village, and to be in community with others. We have a community garden in the middle. We've got a memorial garden. As I mentioned, down in Austin, the model we're following, 84% down there succeed, 16% that do not, but 84% of people. And down there, the average is on the streets for 9 years, average of 59 years old. Of course, everybody has one or more disability, and 84% succeed at staying until they die. And there's a memorial garden, so that once someone does pass away, there's a very dignified process of remembering and celebrating their life, and then interning them in a columbarium with their name etched in marble, to be forever in the village there, on the southern end of the garden. We've got a neighbor care community center. Oops. Eventually there's a drawing. Eventually there'll be a village, like an entrepreneurial center, an art house. Down in Austin, they sell over $100,000 of art a year, the village residents do. And everybody has talents and gifts that many people may not even know they have until they find their forever home. So it's a master planned community designed specifically for the chronically homeless, and it's a lot more than just the architecturally designed homes that people can actually afford. Like I said, it's all the services, all the mental health services. It's the services are provided much like in a homeless shelter, where there's rooms that can be shared or co-located. We're talking to an organization that could provide mental health professionals that could office at the village. So we would provide the rooms, they would provide the staff, and then they would co-locate there. But other rooms would be shared. So much like a homeless shelter, the Veterans Administration comes on Tuesdays, primary health care comes on Thursdays, that kind of thing. So that's kind of how the services would be provided in addition to all the things JOPPA currently does in our 18 years of history at helping people get off the streets and stay off the streets. The homes are, variety of sizes. This is a quick rendering. This is actually in the village, looking at the actual homes. The colors aren't necessarily correct, and there's a few more amenities, but basically the homes kind of look like this. We're going back to the 1920s and 30s when homes were smaller than they are today. Everybody had a front porch for that sense of community and that facilitates community. Lots of fun architectural features like gabled roofs and stuff. These are all examples or mood board ideas. This, except for the one in the upper left-hand corner, which this has the yellow chairs, which is a home that we actually built. That is a home that will be in the village, called a 384. It's 384 square feet. And we built that as a prototype here in Des Moines. And so thinking about those homes, do I have another? Oh, this is kind of old. The home we just saw that we built is this one here on the right. It's 384 square feet. And all of these homes starting at 350 a month have the same basic four amenities. They all have they all have a bedroom, dedicated, they're all one bedroom. They have a dedicated bathroom, full bath. They have a living area and a kitchenette. So the only difference is really size and color, amenities, and how big, how much space you have. And so people can choose their home based on how much, like we do, what it looks like, where it is, how much they want to spend on it, how big it is, all of that kind of stuff. So the 192 square foot home is, we're targeting $350 a month for rent. That's roughly 35% of SSI. And so this is designed for, most people have access to SSI. Most chronically homeless people do have a source of income, but that's not going to be a requirement because you can work in the village, and there's a dignified work program where the kinds of services that need to get done anyway that you would typically hire a professional service organizations to do, such as lawn care, janitorial work, snow removal, certain hospitality services. All those can be jobs that people can choose to do in the village to earn their monthly income. So there's dignity in paying rent. It lifts people up. It gives them a sense of a pride of ownership. They want to take care of their place, and sort of like want to watch out for my neighborhood, and I want everything green and clean. You would be amazed at this village in Austin and how perfect it is. I have a video we might look at in a little bit here. I mentioned that we don't operate on, this is old. Let me find 2025. No, that's right. Sorry. Yeah, that's correct. So I mentioned that we don't operate on state or federal funding. And so 80%, nearly 80% every year of our funding comes from families and individuals. Last year it was 79% directly, and 3% families and individuals through their churches. And so we're very much partnered with the community and involving, getting people involved in helping us with their time, again, with their talents. You can see down here, oh my gosh, down here in the pro bono and in-kind gifts. All of our legal work, Nyemaster in Des Moines, which is a big legal firm, has been doing our legal work for most of our history. And they never send us, they always zero out their bills when they send them. We've had all of our architectural work done pro bono. We get lots of marketing. So many people help us with their talents. And that's a big part of where this is on top of the financial support that we come in. This particular presentation was oriented towards a group that towards financial support. And so, but I'll mention while we're here, it's for 7 years in a row, we've received or been awarded the Candid Guide Star seal or transparency seal, which is for governance, finance, and transparency. And we learned last year that less than 1% of U.S. nonprofits are awarded that particular seal. For those of you that are near Des Moines that like thrifting, we started a thrift store about 3 years ago to help pay for everything. It's not a separate entity. It's just a brand of JOPPA. It's our thrift store, wholly owned, and so everything donated or purchased there helps to lift people off our streets. Eventually, we plan to have multiple stores, and one day we'll be able to cover 100% of our operating costs through the stores. And so last year we were voted best thrift store in Des Moines, and the store's really taken off. And it's just right next door to the Homeless Resource Center. If you guys, next time you're in Des Moines, if you want to pop by, I'd love to say hi, or if you just drive by or want to check that out sometime. It's a fun store. People love it. And what I might do here, if it's okay, I'll show you just a really short video on the village, and then we can kind of see where we are. I've got some other stuff we could talk about, or I got another video I'd love to show too if we have time. But does that sound good? See if I can get it to play now.
Thanks, Joe. I think that sounds great. Let's see them both.
Okay, and let's tell me if the audio is not coming through for some reason. I know that's sometimes an issue. I'll just play it and assume it's working unless you guys stop me.
In this otherwise unremarkable area of Austin, Texas, there is a community that very well might be an answer, even the answer, to a problem plaguing cities coast to coast.
We have a phrase that housing alone will never solve homelessness, but community will.
Community.
It's about community. It's about people being lonely, man.
We're in the middle of the Mobile Loaves and Fishes Community First Village with founder and CEO Alan Graham. What started with a few used trailers has now grown to scores of tiny houses. There will be more than 500 units by the end of the year. How do I qualify to get in here?
Unaccompanied male or female, no children,
Yeah.
with a disability, having lived on the streets of the Travis County for at least a year. You're moving from phase one.
There's a waiting list of 160. As for rules, restrictions for drug or alcohol dependency do not exist. Zero.
We live in a world where we have been experimenting with prohibiting those things for over 100 years here in the United States. And how successful are we?
The village is faith-based. Its ethos found in both the Old and New Testaments. Love your neighbor.
Boiled egg?
Sprinkled among the formerly homeless are people like Neil and Lynn Nolan, who chose to leave their affluent Austin neighborhood and instead live here, as the Bible says, among the least of these. You two have been out there almost a year now. What's the most important thing you've learned?
When you muscle that energy to continue to stay in there and walk the journey that they're on with them, by them as their neighbor, it is incredibly fulfilling.
Expectation-wise, has it been as important as you hoped it would be?
More so. More so. It's easy to say I'm going to meet people on their level, but it's another thing to actually live it and do it on a daily basis.
It's evangelism minus the sermons. It's faith with works.
What we want people to do is preach the gospel often and only when necessary to use words.
No proselytizing allowed.
That's why most of our neighbors love Christ but can't stand Christians.
In the village, there's an art studio.
This was Jason did this.
Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yep.
And work opportunities. A hydroponic garden supplies free fresh produce. But utopia, this is not.
The two essential human needs are the need to be fully and wholly loved and fully and wholly known. When you bring all that to the table, it creates an environment of welcoming. But Harry, it has a side salad of tension. It's life. It's real life with all the beauty and the marinade of the dysfunction all put into that one little tasty gumbo.
This fearless approach to folks living on the street is working. Travis County has pledged tens of millions of dollars in support, and ground has been broken for construction of 1,400 new units.
Government of the people and for the people is typically risk averse and lacks innovation. And so we've come in and we've brought a tremendous amount of risk to prove something innovative.
JR figures he may have been on the street for 20 years. but no more.
And you'll never find another place that cares about people like this.
If this place didn't exist, would you still be on the street?
If this place didn't exist, I'd be dead. That's just the truth.
We sat with JR on his porch, listening to him play the blues, mournful notes that belied a hymn of gratitude. And here's the thing, people come and visit there 3 or 4 times a year from around the country to see how it's done.
Yeah.
And Alan, by the way, formerly successful commercial real estate guy.
Yeah.
Oops.
In this otherwise unremarkable.
Sorry about that, guys. Anyway, he was going on to say he lives in the village, and Harry went on to say that was one of the most meaningful stories that he's ever done. So, could you guys still hear me okay? No, I'm not hearing anybody. Must be on my end. Try again. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, you guys are muted. So sorry. Great. I'm sorry. All right. Well, so that was a little bit about community first, of course, and what questions do you guys, I do have another video I'd love to show you, but what questions have we generated so far? Does anybody have a question?
This is Chris. Why do you think, or what do you contribute to the fact of increasing homelessness? And what do you think brings people to Iowa in being homeless?
Well, yeah, so the reasons for homelessness, as you guys know, are myriad, and from the foster care system to mental health to wages to our cost of living in general. And the reason it's increasing, I think, is because a lot of those things just have gotten worse, or some of those support systems have gone away. And so there's just a number of factors that are really out of most of our control, really out of any one organization's control, that are leading to that. I think from my perspective, one of the main differences is that we all used to, if you go back 100, 200 years and before, we all used to help people in our community, whether they were traveling and or whether they were, so to speak, the alien, or, the widow, etc. We would really reach out and take people under our wings, let people move into our homes, really reach out as churches and help people. And it's really, we've all grown so independent. Some people would say that has a lot to do with the garage door opener. We can all go home and get into our cocoons and shut the door and really not have to deal with our neighbors. We don't have to borrow sugar or milk anymore. Really, most of us don't have a sense of community, or really any community beyond our, close friends, or, except maybe our work group, and our family, except for our work group, maybe our, church, if we attend church. So, and those communities sometimes aren't as intimate or as
the closing of the county homes had really made a difference too. County homes, since Reagan thought it was really important in the mid 90s that everyone needed to have a paycheck and didn't have to be at the county home. And so in my lifetime, I think just about every county home has been closed. And that it provided, at least in Cerro Gordo County, and it was the county farm. And so people had 3 meals a day, they had clean bed sheets, they had work to do. But suddenly that's just not, uh, it costs too much. I think it's simply economics.
Well, yeah, and partly, our fair housing standards and quality standards make, the home has to now cost over $250,000 for just a small little space for it to match up to, our government requirements and regulations. So the cost for someone to actually build a home these days, much less fight the neighborhoods in terms of the not in my backyard kind of, nobody wants anything that sounds remotely like affordable housing anymore in their neighborhood. So it just makes it really difficult to be profitable. And you're right about that community or county homes, but also SROs. It used to be that you could get a bed or a place, for $3 to $10 a night with a meal, going back a ways. And even, back in Des Moines, when we started, we had few single resident occupancy kind of places in town where you could rent a room. You would have a shared bathroom, but $350 a month, you could get a room. Those are all gone. We've destroyed more SROs, or when I say destroyed, just taken them out in America than there are homeless people. So yeah, a lot of it is policy, but at the same time, while we advocate to change those policies, I believe that community is the missing piece. You guys know there are only two homeless people in America for every church. So,
Wow.
yeah. So if half the churches helped 4 people, So, really, I believe that the community is the missing piece, and that we can augment what the government can do and can do as fast as it does, and all of those wonderful programs and all of that funding to actually make the difference. And so it's really the community, I believe, that is the missing piece to ending homelessness. So I was going to ask you, and this is interesting. So in Polk County, at least, for every 100 families that are in that low income, bracket that need to rent a home, there are only 23 that are affordable and available. So many people will tell you the entire problem to homelessness is the lack of affordable housing, and it's certainly one of the root causes. It's certainly one of the sort of fundamental causes. But as you guys know, it's more than that. People are, suffering from behavioral health, mental health issues, and from addiction issues. And often people that are, put in housing or that have a government kind of program don't succeed. And so it's a very complex problem.
Joe, I was kind of curious about in the community, like in Austin, do they have, really trying, I don't want to sound like I'm stereotyping people at all. I really don't. But if someone maybe is having a substance abuse crisis or is trying to sell drugs or or that sort of, I mean, do they have like police presence or, I mean, do they have a community weight of kind of surrounding that person and helping them to, I don't know, go the right way or whatever?
Right. Yeah. I'm going at that from two perspectives. From the village's perspective, we don't monitor what goes on inside people's homes. This is a neighborhood like any of our neighborhoods, and what people do inside their homes is their business. They're paying their rent and they're adults. If that spills in to spills into the neighborhood, spills out of the home and begins to create problems in the neighborhood, then that's when it's addressed. There are really three rules in the village that are required to stay, and only really 3 rules. You have to pay your rent, and then you have to follow a civil law, so you're not allowed to break laws. And then you have to essentially not disturb the general enjoyment of your neighbors, and that's in the form of a code of conduct policy. that includes language like that, and you know, you can have dogs and cats and stuff, but you can't have 27 and you know, this kind of thing. So there's certain, you have to keep your area you know, green and clean. So when that spills over, it's like in our neighborhoods, if you were to see something down the street, you would call the police, and the police are our friends. We have a very close relationship in our case because we're in the city with the Des Moines Police Department, and so we would encourage. So there's no on-site police. There's hopefully a lot of police presence because they're our friends, and they so for instance in Austin they've had a lot of police presence, and they just took one of their homes and made it given the police department a key fob so that they can come there to write their reports, to hang out for a bit, cool down, you know, go to the bathroom, take a shower, have a bite, you know, have their lunch, that kind of thing, which does keep even more police presence in the village. We're thinking about doing that as well. And so, but it's not, so then, really it polices itself. You have cameras, and we have, it's an open village, so anybody can drive in just like any neighborhood, but we have cameras, and we have, license plate readers at the entrances. And that license plate reader will be online to the Des Moines Police Department, which has a list of you know, license plates that are suspect, as well as we can add to that list if we determine someone is coming in the village is selling drugs or something. So it's really all sort of reactive. It's proactive in the sense of setting the expectation and expecting personal responsibility. But when you pay your rent and you've been on the streets for years, you've seen it all, you perhaps lost hope and never expected to be in this kind of situation. The last thing you want is people, you know, down the way, not taking care of themselves or their property or, you know, their own personal business. And so you're going to bring that to people's attention. Now, from a backroom perspective, we have both neighbor care and a neighbor care manager, and we have a property manager, a village manager. And so the property manager is there to make sure people, you know, pay their rent, the property is maintained, green and clean, safe, secure, that it's meeting all of those things. The neighbor care there, and so the property manager's there to enforce the lease essentially. And this uses a standard Iowa rental lease like any landlord in Iowa would typically use. And so the village manager is there to make sure you pay your rent, follow your lease, and that everything's going well. The neighbor care person is there to make sure you stay in your housing. So if you're, you know, starting to use again, the neighbor care person is going to be working with you and working closely with the village person to keep you in your housing. And we're plugged into all of the you know, support systems around, so we can help people if they want to enter into a recovery type of program, or we've got people that will take them to, you know, AA, or, you know, whatever is gonna work for them, and we're gonna try to help them in whatever way we can. But that's part of the reason why the 14%, you know, in Austin, there are some people that are just not going to be able to succeed in housing, but it's a very small percentage. So I don't know if I answered. And then the people that live right in your village amongst you, that's another sort of safe haven, if you will, and someone else that's living right there. So about 1 in 20 people will have never experienced homelessness, and those people are scattered throughout the village. I can't see you guys at the same time, so that's a little awkward for me. Do you guys have any other questions?
I was wondering, have you noticed, what have you noticed in Des Moines, especially as you're working with the community and trying to have a good relationship with the police force? Since I think it was early last year that the council voted to essentially criminalize homelessness. You get fines and misdemeanors if you're living in tents. You can't stand on the medians anymore. What have you noticed with that, and kind of how are you dealing with those relationships?
Yeah,
Sorry,
You're
I
muted.
accidentally muted you instead of me. My apologies.
no problem. Thanks for asking. It's a little bit of a tough situation. We've got council members that are, trying to figure out how to solve this problem. Like you said, if it was actually a few years ago now, and then it took a while for it to really completely be implemented. Um, we just we just try to work around that. It's not ideal for those of you that don't know. If you lay your head down or try to, if you look like you're going to go to sleep or lay down, it's not legal to sleep on public property. And so if you lay down, and so they're really trying to. And then the other thing is you can't have your personal stuff on property either. So if it looks like you're setting up a tent or have any stuff sitting off beside you, they can potentially take that, and then they can just tell you to they just tell you to move along. So it's people have a lot of it doesn't solve any problems. It's like whack-a-mole. There is one place in town people allow people to go. It's kind of an unofficial official location for campers where they won't evict you, um, except in exceptions when they do, but for the most part. And the problem with that is that it's just there's too many people there, and it's just not safe. That's where a lot of really bad things happen. And so we would never suggest anybody goes there, but a lot of people do, because they get tired of being moved all around. It's just not a good solution for anybody, and it makes our work harder because it's hard to find the people when they're moved all around. It exacerbates their mental and physical health issues as and no one can tell them where they can go, because it's sort of like, it's not my problem. You can't be on public property. You need to leave. And so that just exacerbates everything. How about any final questions? I realize we're running out of time quickly here. This time has gone very quickly.
What are some of the ways that you have built those relationships with the police department?
Just really running into them in the street initially in places, and then of course building a relationship with the police chief, and through the department. We have a mobile crisis unit, and so those are the folks that we've gotten sort of the closest to. But being out on the streets and running into situations, or calling for the police in times, or encountering a time, being somewhere when the police show up, or all of those kinds of things, has just put us kind of in the line of sight, if you will. And we're ones to advocate for the homeless, as much as we can, or where obviously if someone's doing a crime against someone else, then we're not able to support that, but as much as possible, and then to try to mediate the situation in terms of trying to provide some possible off ramps, or things that the people that are being told to move, some short-term solutions at least.
For folks who may be watching this later, recommendations for ways to get involved with JOPPA or with their local organization.
Yeah, I encourage everybody to find a local organization. I think if we all got involved and knew what we could do to help, and then started helping, like I said, this problem would be over. In the Des Moines area, and we do have actually some volunteers from Fort Dodge, but I know that's quite a drive. But we have, you can go to our website, joppa.org, and learn a lot there. People can email volunteer@joppa.org, and that'll go right to our volunteer manager. We do have voluntours once a month at 6:30 p.m. on the second Tuesday. So that's a chance to tour our facility and hear about a number of places to serve. People can serve behind the scenes, or in direct services. And we have, of course, at JOPPA, on the JOPPA side, so to speak, we have backroom sorting, meal prep, all kinds of food rescue, all kinds of supporting programs, hospitality, etc. And then in direct services, people can serve in the Homeless Resource Center. We've got 3 specific roles in there, including an entry-level role. And then they can serve on outreach or aftercare and our Circle of Friends program. And then we now have a thrift store next door, so people can actually serve if they like people and want to do direct services. They can be a cashier or help merchandise stuff in the store, or we've got people staging, pricing, hanging, things like that in the back room. So really, I don't think I told you guys this. We had over 2,000 volunteers the last 3 years. Each year, we've had over 2,000 volunteers contribute over 40,000 hours. And as the village comes online, we're expecting to have opportunities for more than 3,000 volunteers. So we're going to hopefully see that number continue to grow. So there's plenty of places to serve. And we've got opportunities to serve weekly, monthly, quarterly, and then, some annual events as well, and that kind of thing. So lots of ways to get involved.
What's your anticipated opening date for the phase one?
Thanks for asking. We're planning to start moving people in next spring. We'll be breaking ground as soon as we can pull permits on the some of the infrastructure, the entry and exit, and the first starting to build the first 5 homes. And then we're launching a capital campaign in the August timeframe. And depending on how fast the money is raised, we will build the additional homes in the community center and then move right into the second neighborhood.
This is really exciting and it's really a big deal. I'm so happy to have, to hear about this and how you're moving forward and how you're growing. It's very inspiring.
Well, thank you. Gosh, I'm happy to be a source of inspiration. I would say praise God, because it's really God working through us and all of our volunteers and donors.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
that makes all this possible. For me, it's a calling. But yes, thank you so much. Love to help people.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we're about out of time. Are there any other questions or comments for Joe?
No, just thanks for being on today. And sharing.
Yes.
Thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
absolutely.
Reach out again if you'd ever like to visit again.
Thank you. We'll
Awesome.
do. We'll do. Blessings
Thank you so
all.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.